Hello, my name is Florian Munsch from Mining Scout, and today I'm joined by Brandon Bonifacio, as President and CEO of NevGold. And Brandon, welcome to the show.
Hey, Florian, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we saw recently, it's beginning of January 2023, and we saw gold in a steep rise in the first days here. So we are going from 1,630 at the closing of December into 1,875. So is gold on the new move now?
I think it is, and I think it's been a long time coming. I think a lot of gold investors or people who follow the space were expecting this move to have happened quicker. But I think all things considering, these things tend to take time at times. I think you're starting to see the interest rates start to flatten out. And I do think that it's going to be a very strong year for gold over 2023. And that's going to bode well for companies like NevGold.
Yeah, excellent. And being a gold exploration and development company, maybe you give the audience a little bit like an elevator pitch. What's NevGold actually doing?
Definitely. So I think from a NevGold standpoint, our platform's really focused on the Western US. It's focused on oxide gold. It's focused on near surface mineralization and projects that can be put and developed into producing assets quite simply at a very low capital intensity. So our focus now is really driving towards what is a resource base at our two flagship projects. One of them is Limousine Butte in Nevada. The other is Nutmeg Mountain in Idaho. And our focus for 2023 is going to be drilling those projects and then updating the resource at both. And we think combined with both those projects, we're going to be able to deliver what is north of a 3 million ounce near surface oxide gold resource by the second half of 2023.
Excellent. Yeah. And can you elaborate a little bit about you have 4 projects or more, but elaborate a little bit about the flagship ones. So one in Idaho and one in Nevada.
Yeah, so we started the company with 3 projects. 2 of them we acquired from McEwen Mining, so a TSX and New York Stock Exchange listed company. Those 2 projects were in Nevada. They're called Limousine Butte and Cedar Wash. And we also had another high-grade polymetallic project in British Columbia called Ptarmigan. So that's how we formed the company. That was back in June of 2021. So we're one of the new kids on the block. We just listed around 18 months ago. So we had a really nice first year. Our main focus during that year was drilling Limousine Butte. And then subsequent to that, in the middle of last year, so June of 2022, we acquired the Nutmeg Mountain project in Idaho from a group called Gold Mining Inc. Again, another TSX and New York Stock Exchange listed company. They're a strong supporter of ours. They're a very large shareholder now. So we now have the 4 projects in our portfolio. And I can say the 2 flagships that we're going to be actively working on this year are Limousine Butte in Nevada and Nutmeg Mountain in Idaho.
Okay. Yeah. And you mentioned Gold Mining Inc. and McEwen. So let's talk about shareholding, ownership structure, and so on. So who owns the company?
Definitely. So we have just around 70 million shares outstanding now. So we do have a very tight shareholding structure. And when you look at our registry, I think you've got Gold Mining now at 20%, very, very strong supportive shareholder. They've now also recently supported us in our financing we just completed last December with a $1.25 million lead order. So a very strong shareholder. McEwen owns just under 8% currently of issued and outstanding. And then interesting enough, and I think very positive for your listeners, us as insiders, directors of the company, we still own over 30%. We also just participated in our last December financing. So again, we run a very owner-operated model. We believe in what we're doing and we have skin in the game. And I think that's very important for a lot of your listeners and readers.
And we talked about it pre-recording. So many company CEOs or company managers, they have skin in the game, but they got cheap shares. And but you are aligning yourself with investors, and you're buying in the market and also in the placements. Keeping or upgrading your ownership percentage.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really strong signal and great point. I think, large shareholding positions at nominal cost aren't as important as large shareholding positions where you see them continue to add and build their position. So I think that's definitely a signal that we've been clear onto the market. And I think we're delivering on that over the last 18 months.
And if we come back to a little more macro view again, so we have seen the big producing gold companies, they were performing okay, but the juniors are kind of smashed, bombed out, and as we all know, it's a cyclical business, and yeah, sooner or later it will all bounce back, because the majors, they need pipeline, they need millions of ounces, they need to acquire things. So will it be time for the juniors in 2023? Yeah, so we will see.
I think so. And I think this is the natural pyramid or development. I think you've started to see the senior companies, and they had a good, strong year last year, but I think you're starting to see some of them actually perform now, starting 2023 and a little bit in December. And they're always the first ones that are going to move. They have the most scale, they have cash flow. So you're starting to see them move. And I think as time progresses over the coming months, you're going to start to see that trickle down to the junior exploration space and then the exploration space. So I think there's a lot of positive potential momentum in the cards for companies like NevGold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in the general environment, I'm very bullish, because nobody is bullish. Yeah, so as a contrarian, but for gold, but you could pick any gold mining company. Yeah, but especially exploration development. Yeah, there's not only the gold price as a lever, but you can also make a discovery and build your resource base.
Definitely.
So tell us what's going to happen at NevGold in the next 6 months.
Yeah, I think the really nice part is we timed our financing, I think, extremely well. So we just recently completed a financing in December of last year for 4.1 million Canadian. That really gives us a nice runway for 2023. So from a work program standpoint, getting that financing done, what does that now allow us to do is start drilling immediately. So we're going to have a drill rig that mobilizes this week to our Nutmeg Mountain project in Idaho. And then subsequent to that, we're going to have a drill rig mobilized to our Limousine Butte project in Nevada. So we're going to have 2 active exploration and drilling programs ongoing simultaneously. And that's going to afford us to start having assays in the second half of February and March. So I think we're going to be able to time what is this potential positive macroeconomic move in gold with assays. And that's very important. I think a lot of other junior exploration companies are trying to finance now to then start drilling. I think we got ahead of the herd. I think we timed our financing well, and that's going to allow us to actually have news flow coming out by way of the drill bit when the markets start to move. And I think that's a very advantageous position to be in.
So news flow coming. What do you, so it's always funny to say, what do you expect? I don't mean the results, but I mean in terms of how are you going to develop these projects actually with the drilling you're doing?
So we're going to phase into the drilling programs this year. So we're starting with a 3,500 meter program at Nutmeg Mountain in Idaho, and then we're also going to have a 3,000 meter program in Nevada. So I think both that combined is around 6,500 to 7,000 meters. That's going to then allow us to get some results out to market, see what those results are. We've now drilled already 10,000 meters at Limousine Butte, Nevada, and I can say the results were fantastic. There's a lot of plus 100 meter, plus 1 gram per ton oxide near surface results that we've released. We have a lot to follow up on. So from a Nevada standpoint, it's really infilling some of the gaps from our past drilling. We made a couple discoveries in that program. So we really want to just fan out and start drilling and trying to define how large of a footprint we actually have there. From an Idaho standpoint, we as NevGold have never drilled that project. This was just acquired this past June, as I mentioned. So we're getting into our first program there. And I think there's a lot of targets, for whatever reason, weren't drilled previously. And we're going to be looking at extending what is, and I haven't mentioned it yet, nor has it been mentioned, but the project in Idaho already has a 1.1 million ounce resource that was done in 2020. So there's 1.1 million ounces sticking out of the ground. From an Idaho standpoint, we're trying to extend that laterally and then also extend it at depth. And there's an abundance of targets that have not been drilled. So I think it's a very exciting program. I think if we can hit on anything in Nevada, filling in the gaps, that project's well and on its way to what is north of 1.5 million resource. And then you have Idaho, which is already sitting at 1.1 million ounces, that if we have success with some of this drilling laterally and at depth, you can easily see how that could get to north of 2 million ounces pretty quickly.
Yeah, and so you can reach 3 million ounces in total.
And that's the combined how we
goal in the near term.
Yeah, and that's how we derive that plus 3 million ounce target as a goal for the company.
Which development stage is it? The resource?
So that one's just had a resource on it. It hasn't been put into the engineering studies yet. The one in Idaho, and then the one in Nevada, it's has a historical resource. We're in the process of getting it to the resource category.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so I think we covered your projects, we covered the macro thing. Is there anything else you would like to add? And maybe tell us why especially NevGold is an interesting play for investors to look at now.
Yeah, and I think we talked a lot about the projects and the plans going forward, but the one element that I think is also very important is the people. I think when you look at our group, we have decades upon decades of experience operating in the Western US belt. And I think when you're looking at companies and names, I think that gives you a leg up. So we're able to get drill rigs. We have quick turnaround times at the assay labs. We know all the contractors. So when you're looking at a competitive advantage operationally, keeping your costs low, being efficient, there's a reason why we've been able to ramp up into the programs as quickly as we have, and that gets back to the people. And I think that's a huge element of junior mining. I think there's a lot of companies, there's a lot of names and a lot of groups, and I think ours definitely stands up very highly against others. And I'm looking forward to what we're going to be able to accomplish over the next 12 to 18 months on the back of some of this drilling. And further to that, we have the right skill set to advance it. We have guys in our group or individuals in our group who have permitted projects, who have put projects into construction. So further to just drilling this year, we have the right skill set to advance it and de-risk it along the project development curve. And I think that's also a very important element, is finding groups that actually know the roadmap, know how to get business done in the locations that they're operating, and can advance and de-risk projects. Because as you mentioned, Florian, the large companies have not done enough exploration. They have not found enough ounces. And if you can advance and de-risk projects to a certain stage, you become a very interesting candidate for some of these large and mid-cap producers.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Brandon Bonifacio, President and CEO of NevGold. And if you want to look up NevGold, it's listed on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol NAU, and also in Frankfurt on different exchanges. So we will post the WKN below, and welcome you to also see our coverage on Mining Scout in German. Thank you.
Thanks, Florian.